द्विजेषु ते स्वीयं कियत् प्रकटयत्यपि तत्तदत्प्रज्ञम् मायेश जगदण्डविधानकर्ता गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमं भजामि. I am a diamond. My glories or my effulgence is only because of his effulgence. His teja is there, that is why I shine. I have no separate shine. Like diamond has no separate shine. If the light falls on it, then it shines. So Brahmaji is very humble. He knows his position. That is why the knowledge has been given to Brahmaji. Now, 36th verse, 6th chapter, 2nd canto, 2.6.36. Natosmyaham tatcharanam samiyusham bhavachhiddam swastyeyanam sumangalam yoyatmamaya vibhavam sma paryagat yatha nabha swantamatha pare kutaham. So therefore he says, Namaha, let me pay obeisances. Let me take his shelter. I am Samiyusham. I am just a surrendered soul. Because if we take shelter of Lord, then only Bhavati Chidam. It can stop birth and death cycle. And it is actually for everyone. It's good for everyone. Swasti Ayanam. We say Swasti Vachanam. Swasti Ayanam. It's actually good for everyone. It brings Sumangalam. Taking shelter of Krishna brings Sumangalam, all auspiciousness. So in this way, Atma Maya, Vibhavam, Atma Maya. It's not so easy to understand Krishna's potency. When Krishna cannot understand his energy, Pariyagada, it's not so easy to estimate his potency. Like, can you measure the sky? The bird can say, I fly to that extent. Some bird can say, I am flying more than you. So sky has no limit. In the same way, Krishna's potency has no limit. Krishna's power, Krishna's energy, they are multifarious. It has no limit. So in this way, Natosmyaham, let me pay obeisances to that Supreme Person who himself cannot estimate his own limits. Okay, Vimla, read. Vimla Mataji, read.
Mataji, I'm not at home. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't have.
Or Aneja Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Nato samya aham taccharan samiyusham bhavachiddam swatasya yanam sumangalam yo hi atma maya vibham samparyagat yatha nabha swatantam atha pare kutaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So, what can others do when the Lord Himself is unable to estimate His own limits? Purport. Lord Brahma, the greatest of all learned living beings, the greatest sacrificer, the greatest observer of the austere life, and the greatest self realized mystic, advises us as the supreme spiritual master of all living beings that one should simply surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord in order to achieve all success, even up to the limit of being liberated from the miseries of material life and being endowed with all auspicious spiritual existence. Lord Brahma is known as the Pitama or the father's father. A young man consults his experienced father about discharging his duties. So the father is naturally a good advisor. But Lord Brahma is the father of all fathers. He is the father of Manu, who is the father of mankind all over the universal planets. Therefore, the men of this insignificant planet should kindly accept the instruction of Brahmaji and do well to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord rather than to estimate the length and breadth of the Lord's potencies. His potencies are immeasurable, as confirmed in the Vedas. Prasya Shaktir Vivedhaya Srivate Swabhaviki Gyan Bal Kriya Cha Shveshta Shveshtashvatra Upanishad 6.8. He is the greatest of all, and all others, even the greatest of all living beings, namely Brahmaji, admits that the best thing for us is to surrender unto him. Therefore, only those persons with a very poor fund of knowledge claim that they themselves are lords of all that they survey. And what can they survey? They cannot survey even the length and breadth of a small sky in one small universe. The so called material scientist says that he would need to live 40,000 years to reach the highest planet of the universe, being carried by a Sputnik. This is also utopian because no one can be expected to live 40,000 years. Besides, when the space pilot returned from his travel, none of his friends would be present to receive him back as the greatest astronaut, as has become fashionable for modern bewildered scientific men. One scientific man who had no belief in God was very much enthusiastic in making plans for his material existence and therefore opened a hospital to save the living. But after opening the hospital, he himself died within 6 months. So one should not spoil his human life, which is obtained after many changes of bodies in 8.4 lakh species of life, simply for the concocted material happiness of life through increasing artificial needs in the name of advancement of economic development and scientific knowledge. Rather, one should simply surrender unto the feet of the Lord to make a solution to all miseries of life. That is the instruction of Lord Krishna directly in Bhagavad Gita, and that is the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam by Brahmaji, the Supreme Father of all living beings. Anyone denying this surrendering process, as recommended both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and for that matter in all authorized scriptures, will be forced to surrender unto the laws of material nature. The living entity, by his constitutional position, is not independent. He must surrender either unto the Lord or unto material nature. Material nature is also not independent of the Lord, since the Lord himself has claimed material nature as Mama Maya or my energy, Bhagavad Gita 7.14, and as me, Bhinna Prakritit Astadha, or my separated energy in 8 divisions, Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Therefore, material nature is also controlled by the Lord. And he has claimed in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Adhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Under my direction only is material nature working, and thus all things are moving. And the living entities, being superior energy to matter, have choice and discrimination either to surrender unto the Lord or to surrender unto material nature. By surrendering unto the Lord, one is happy and liberated, but by surrendering unto material nature, the living entity suffers. So, the end of all suffering means surrendering unto the Lord, because the surrendering process is itself bhava chittam, liberation from all material miseries, swasti ayanam, perception of all happiness, and sumangalam, the source of everything auspicious. Therefore, liberty, happiness, and all good fortune can be attained only by surrendering unto the Lord, because He is full liberty, full happiness, and full auspiciousness. Such liberation and happiness are also unlimited, and they have been compared to the sky, although such liberation and happiness are indefinitely greater than the sky. In our present position, we can simply understand the magnitude of greatness when it is compared to the sky. We fail to measure the sky, but the happiness and liberty obtained in association with the Lord are far greater than the sky. That spiritual happiness is so great that it cannot be measured even by the Lord Himself, not to speak of others. It is said in the scriptures, Brahma Sukhayam Tva Anantam. Spiritual happiness is unlimited. Here it is said that even the Lord cannot measure such happiness. This does not mean that the Lord cannot measure it and is therefore imperfect in that sense. The actual position is that the Lord can measure it, but the happiness in the Lord is also identical with the Lord on account of absolute knowledge. So, the happiness derived from the Lord may be measured by the Lord, but the happiness increases again, and the Lord measures it again, and then again the happiness increases more and more, and the Lord measures it more and more, and as such, there is eternally a competition between increment and measurement, so much so that the competition is never stopped but goes on unlimitedly ad infinitum. Spiritual happiness is Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, or the ocean of happiness which increases. The material ocean is stagnant, but the spiritual ocean is dynamic. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 4th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami has very nicely described this dynamic increment of the ocean of spiritual happiness in the transcendental person of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Now again, let's see what Brahmaji prays. Naham nayuyam yadrutam gatim vidu nahvamadeva kimuta pare suraha tanmayaya mohita buddhayastvidam vinirmitam chatmasam vichakshmahe. So it's very difficult to understand the bliss. That is what Brahmaji is telling. In the previous verse, Brahmaji says, very difficult to estimate the power of Lord. Even Lord cannot estimate his own power. The same way, neither I nor Lord Shiva or anyone can understand the spiritual happiness. That is what spiritual happiness. If we only cannot understand, what about the other demigods? Why it's difficult to understand? Because mohitaha mayaha. One is bewildered by the illusory energy. So the intelligence is bewildered. That is why it's not able. One cannot understand. And then how we perceive the whole world according to our perception, according to our own ability, whatever ability one has, Atma Samam, Vichakshmahe. In this way, we see the world. So now it's not so easy to see the spiritual world, nor it is easy to estimate the spiritual happiness derived from bhakti. So here it is said, Brahma, Narada, Shiva. We cannot understand. Then what about the other demigods? Gandharvas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, and what to speak of human beings and asuras. They can never understand the potency of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Krishna Priya, can you read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Naham nayuyam yadhatam gatim vidhu dravamadeva kimuta pare suraha tanmayaya mohita buddhayastvitam vinirmitam chatmasam vichakshmahe. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Since neither Lord Shiva nor you nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability. Purport. We have many times mentioned the names of 12 selected authorities, the Dwadasa Mahajana, of which Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva head the list as the first, second, and third in order of merit of those who know the something of the Lord, Supreme Lord. Other demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, human beings, or asuras cannot possibly know fully about the potencies of the absolute Lord, Sri Krishna. The demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, etc. are all highly intelligent persons in the upper planets. The human beings are inhabitants of the intermediate planets, and the asuras are inhabitants of the lower planets. All of them have their respective conceptions and estimations of the absolute truth, as does the scientists or the empiric philosophers in a human society. All such living entities are creatures of the material nature, and consequently they are bewildered by the wonderful display of the three modes of material nature. Such bewilderment is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 7.113. Tribhir gunamayer bhavir ebhava sarvam idam jagat. Every entity, beginning from Brahma down to the ant, is individual bewildered by the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone thinks in terms of individual capacity that this universe, which is manifested before us, is all in all. And so the scientists in the human society of the 20th century calculates the beginning and end of the universe in his own way. But what can the scientists know? Even Brahma himself was once bewildered, thinking himself the only one Brahma favored by the Lord, but later on, by the grace of the Lord, he came to know that there are innumerable more powerful Brahmas as well, in far bigger universes beyond this universe, and all of this universe combined together from Ekapad Vibhuti are one-fourth of the manifestation of Lord's creative energy. The other three-fourths of it is energy are displayed in the spiritual world. And so what can the tiny scientists with a tiny brain know of the absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna? The Lord Krishna says, therefore, Mohitam nabhijanati mam ebhaya paramam avyayam. Bewildered by such modes of material nature, they cannot understand that beyond this manifestation is a supreme person who is the absolute controller of everything. Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva know about the Lord to a considerable extent, and therefore one should follow the instructions of these great personalities instead of being satisfied with a tiny brain and its playful discoveries such as spacecraft and similar products of science. As the mother is the only authority to identify the father of a child, so the mother Vedas, presented by the organized authority such as Brahma, Narada, or Shiva, is the only authority to inform us about the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
Next. यस्यावतार कर्माणि गायन्ति अस्मदादयः नयं विदन्ति तत्त्वेन तस्मै भगवते नमः. Yasya means whose avatar, his incarnation, his activities. Gayanti, chanting glorification. So in this way, here he says, Bhagavate Namaha. Let me pay obeisances to the Lord, whose incarnation, whose activities are chanted. By whom? Asmat Adayah, by all of us. Still is very difficult to be known. Na vidanti tattvena. It's not so easy to know him. Still what we are doing? We are chanting his glories. Now what we are also doing? We are also doing the same thing. Do we know him? Is it easy to know Krishna? Though we may go and see his vigraha and all those things. We may go and see his vigraha, we may take his darshan. It's not so easy to understand Lord. Brahmaji himself is telling, very difficult to understand Lord. And sometimes out of sahajya bhava, oh Lord is talking to me. That's all sahajya bhava. Lord has no other business of. Maybe I understand Krishna, I know Krishna. What you know Krishna? And Brahmaji, out of complete humility, says, not so easy to understand Krishna. Yes, but what we can do, we can glorify him. That work we can do. From our end, we can glorify him. But when he wants to reveal himself, that is his outlook. तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयाति. It is Krishna who reveals the knowledge. यस्य देवे परा भक्ति यथा देवे तथा गुरु तत्स्ते कथिता यत्तं प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. Everywhere Krishna says, Prakashante, I reveal myself. The more we serve our spiritual master very nicely, it is Lord who reveals himself. Out of our own endeavor, we cannot know him. He makes himself known by his own mercy. Then we have to wait for his mercy. Yeah, Adisati Mataji, 38 words, 6th
Yes.
chapter.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Slok 38. Yasya batara karmani gayanti hasmadadayaha nayang vidanti tatvena tasmai bhagavate namaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is. Purport. It is said that the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes, paraphernalia, personality, etc. cannot possibly be perceived by the gross materialistic senses. But when the senses are purified by the process of hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshipping the lotus feet of the holy deity, etc., the Lord reveals himself proportionately to the advancement of the quality of devotional service. Ye yathamam prapadante. One should not expect the Lord to be an order supplier agent who must be present before us as soon as we desire to see him. We must be ready to undergo the prescribed devotional duties, following the path shown by the predecessors in the disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, and similar authorities. As the senses are progressively purified by bona fide devotional service, the Lord reveals his identity according to the spiritual advancement of the devotee. But one who is not in the line of devotional service can hardly perceive him simply by calculations and philosophical speculations. Such a hard worker can present a jugglery of words before an audience, but can never know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal feature. The Lord has clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that service. No one can know the Lord by any puffed up material process of challenge, but the humble devotee can please the Lord by his earnest devotional activities. Thus, the Lord reveals himself proportionately before the devotee. Lord Brahma therefore offers his respectful obeisances as a bona fide spiritual master and advises us to follow the process of Sravana and Kirtana. Simply by this process, or simply by hearing and chanting the glories of the activities of the Lord's incarnation, one can certainly see within himself the identity of the Lord. We have already discussed this subject in volume 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with the verses. Tatra dadhana munaya gana vairagya yuktaya pasyantatmani chatmanang bhaktya sruta grihitaya. Bhagavatam 1 to 12. the conclusion is one cannot know the Supreme Personality of Godhead fully by any method, but he can be seen and felt partially by the devotional service process of hearing, chanting, etc. Thank you, Mataji.
Next. Just wait. The pages are stuck like anything. Not able to. 1 minute. Yeah. स एष आद्य पुरुष कल्पे कल्पे सृजत्यजः आत्मन्यात्मनात्मानं स संयच्छति पाति च. Now the first incarnation of Lord is Mahavishnu, that is Karnadakshay Vishnu. And what is the purpose of this incarnation? To create this manifested cosmos. So it is said here, the creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance, manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them again. But again he glances at them. Saha Eshaha Adya. He is the original personality of God. Mahavishnu. He has expanded as Mahavishnu. In every millennium, what he does, Sujati, he creates. From where he creates? From his own self. So, we say, oh, he glances at Mahat Tattva, but everything is there inside him only. Again he removes, again he maintains everyone. It again is absorbed into him. In this way, the whole material substance, everything is are all himself. Everything is himself only. That means everything is absorbed in him. Everything is himself. That doesn't mean that we are Mayavad philosophy. Sarvam Kalidam Brahman. We are not talking about that. Matter cannot be Lord, but matter is absorbed in Lord. You should understand this. If this line somebody reads now, what is this line saying? Material substance and material and manifestations are all himself. Are all in himself. In him. He maintains them. So there is a distinct difference between the matter, the material existence, the material substance, the manifestations. Everything is distinct from Krishna. He maintains them, is written, and absorbs them into himself. Okay? Narayana, read.
Yes, Mataji. स एष आदय पुरुष कल्पे कल्पे सुजत्यजः आत्मा आत्मात्मान्यात्मनात्मानं स संयच्छति पाति च. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. That supreme original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates the manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. The creation is non-different from the Lord, and still he is not in the creation. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.4 as follows. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvamastitah. The impersonal conception of absolute truth is also a form of the Lord called Avyakta Murti. Murti means form, but because his impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is the Avyakta Murti form, and in that inexplicable form of the Lord, the whole creation is resting. Or, in other words, the whole creation is the Lord Himself, and the creation is also non different from Him. But simultaneously, He, as the original personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, is aloof from the created manifestation. The impersonalist give stress to the impersonal form or the feature of the Lord and does not believe in the original personality of the Lord. But the Vaishnavas accept the original form of the Lord, of whom the impersonal form is merely one of the features. The impersonal and personal conceptions of the Lord are existing simultaneously. And this fact is clearly described both in Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in other Vedic scriptures. Inconceivable to the human intelligence, the idea must simply be accepted on the authority of the scriptures. And it can only be practically realized by the progress of devotional service unto the Lord, and never by mental speculation or inductive knowledge. Logic. The impersonalists depend more or less on inductive logic, and therefore they always remain in darkness about the original personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Their conception of Krishna is not clear, although everything is clearly mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. A poor fund of knowledge cannot comprehend the existence of an original personal form of the Lord when He is expanded in everything. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. The original personality of Godhead, Adaya, Govinda, expands himself as the Mahavishnu incarnation and rests in the causal ocean, which he himself creates. The Brahma Samhita 5.47 confirms this as follows. यः कारणानवजरे भजति स्म योगः निद्रामनन्त जगदण्ड सरोमकूपः आधारशक्तिमवलम्ब्य परां स्वमूर्तिं Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Lord Brahmaji says in his Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who lies down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the pores of hair on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. So, this Mahavishnu is the first incarnation in the creation, and from him, all the universes are created, and all material manifestations are produced, one after the other. The causal ocean is created by the Lord as the Mahat Tattva, as a cloud in the spiritual sky, and is only a part of his different manifestations. The spiritual sky is an expansion of his personal rays, and he is the Mahatattva cloud also. He lies down and generates the universes by his breathing, and again by entering into each universe as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he creates Brahma, Shiva, and many other demigods for the maintenance of the universe, and again absorbs the whole thing into his person as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.7 Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakritim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshe Punastani Kalpadau Vishrujamyaham. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa or the duration of the life of Brahma is ended, then all the created manifestations enter into my Prakriti or energy, and again, when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. The conclusion is that these are all but displays of Lord's inconceivable personal energies, of which no one can have any full information. This point we have already discussed. Hare Krishna.
Next verse. This will be last, 40 and 41. Vishuddham kevalam jnanam satyak samyag avasthitam satyam purnam anadyantam nirgunam nityam advayam ऋषे विदन्ति मुनयः प्रशान्तात्मेन्द्रिय याशयः यदा तदेवासत् वासत्तर्कैस्तिर् यदा तदेवासत्तर्कैस्तिरोधीयेत विप्लुतम् विशुद्धम् how is Lord विशुद्ध विशेष रूपेण शुद्ध is completely pure केवलम is pure and perfect ज्ञानम is full of knowledge satyam jnanam pratyag is all pervading samyak it is in full avasthitam satyam so he is situated in full knowledge he is at param purnam absolute truth anadi he has no beginning antam he has no end nirgunam he is devoid of all material modes nityam is eternal advayam without any rival O Rishi, O Narada, Vedanti. So who can understand him? The great thinkers, they try to understand him. Prashanta, the pacified. Atma self, Indriya senses. Ashaya shelter, Yada while. Tad that. Eva certainly. Asat untenable. Tarkaya arguments. Tiraha dhyeta disappears. Viplutam distorted. Only when a person is completely freed from all the material hankerings, he is sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses, then they can know him. Or otherwise, everything is distorted. When the knowledge is distorted and the Lord disappears from our sight. Argument, where there is kali, where there is argument, where there is fighting, Lord does not like to stay there. Argument, no? Whether Lord is there, not there, what is his form, not. So these Tarkis, these Munis, they always have Bhinnamataha. They always like to fight with each other. Tarka means argue with each other. And Lord, what he does, tirah diyet, he disappears. And even the knowledge is distorted. On the other hand, the great philosopher, the great thinker, they're pacified. How they are pacified? Just because they are sheltered. So Lord pacifies their inquisitiveness because they have taken shelter of Lord. Okay, Kusum, can you read?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. विशुद्धं केवलं ज्ञानं प्रत्यक् सम्यक् अवस्थितं सत्यं पूर्णम् अनाद्यन्तं निर्गुणं नित्यम् अद्वयम् ऋषे विदन्ति मुनयः प्रशान्तात्मैन्द्रियाश्रयाः यदा तदेव सत्तर्कैस्तिरोधि एत विप्लुतम्. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material changes. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all pervading, without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narada, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings and when sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted and the Lord disappears from our sight. Purport. Here is an estimation of the Lord apart from his transcendental activities in the temporary material creations. Mayavada philosophy tries to designate the Lord as contaminated by a material body when he accepts forms of incarnation. This sort of interpolation is completely denied herein by the explanation that the Lord's position is pure and unalloyed in all circumstances. According to Mayavada philosophy, the spirit soul, when covered by nascence, is designated as Jiva, but when freed from such ignorance or nescience, he merges in the impersonal existence of the absolute truth. But here it is said that the Lord is eternally the symbol of full and perfect knowledge. This is his speciality, perpetual freedom from all material contaminations. This distinguishes the Lord from the individual common living entities who have the aptitude for being subordinated by nescience and thus becoming materially designated. In the Vedas, it is said that the Lord is Vijnanam Anandam, full of bliss and knowledge. The conditioned souls are never to be compared to him because such individual souls have the tendency to become contaminated. Although after liberation, the living entity can become one with the same quality of existence as the Lord, his very tendency to become contaminated, which the Lord never has, makes the individual living entity different from the Lord. In the Vedas, it is said, Shuddham apapa vidham. The individual Atma becomes polluted by sin, but the Lord is never contaminated by sins. The Lord is compared to the powerful sun. The sun is never contaminated by anything infectious because it is so powerful. On the contrary, infected things are sterilized by the rays of the sun. Similarly, the Lord is never contaminated by sins. On the contrary, the sinful living entities become sterilized by contact with the Lord. This means that the Lord is also all pervading like the sun, and as such, the word Pratyak is used in this verse. Nothing is excluded from the existence of the Lord's potential expansions. The Lord is within everything and is all covering also, without being disturbed by the activities of the individual souls. He is therefore infinite, and the living entities are infinitesimal infinitesimal. In the Vedas, it is said that only the Lord alone exists and all others' existence depends on him. He is the generating reservoir for everyone's existential capacity. He is the supreme truth of all other categorical truths. He is the source of everyone's opulence, and therefore no one can equal him in opulence. Being full of all opulences, namely wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, certainly he is the supreme person. And because he is a person, he has many personal qualities, although he is transcendental to the material modes. We have already discussed the statement Ittam Bhuta Guno Harihi, Bhagavad Gita 1.7.10. His transcendental qualities are so attractive that even the liberated souls, Atmaramas, are also attracted by them. Although possessed of all personal qualities, he is nevertheless omnipotent. Therefore, personally, he has nothing to do, for everything is being carried out by his omnipotent energies. This is confirmed by the Vedic mantras Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. This suggests his specific spiritual form, which can never be experienced by the material senses. He can be seen only when the senses are purified by devotional service. Yam evaisa vrunute tena labhyaha. As such, there are basic differences between the Lord and the living entities in so many respects. No one can be compared to the Lord, as the Vedas declare, Ekam evad vitiyam brahma vaitad vai bhayam bhavati. The Lord has no competitor, and he has nothing to fear from any other being, nor can anyone be equal to him. Although he is the root of all other beings, there are basic differences between him and other beings. Otherwise, there would have been no necessity for the statement in the previous verse that no one can know him 100% as he is Nayam Vidanti Tatvena. That no one can fully understand him is explained also in this verse, but the qualification for understanding to some degree is mentioned here. Only the Prashantas or the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can know him to a greater extent. The reason is that the devotees have no demands in their lives but to be obedient servants of the Lord, while all others, namely the empiric philosophers, the mystics, and the fruity workers, all basically have some demand, and as such they cannot be pacified. The fruity worker wants reward for his work. The mystic wants some perfection of life, and the empiric philosopher wants to merge in the existence of the Lord. Somehow or the other, as long as there is a demand for sense satisfaction, there is no chance for pacification. On the contrary, by unnecessary dry speculative arguments, the whole matter becomes distorted, and thus the Lord moves still further away from our understanding. The dry speculators, however, because of their following the principles of austerity and penance, can have knowledge of the impersonal features of the Lord to some extent, but there is no chance of their understanding his ultimate form as Govinda, because only the Atmalatmanas or the completely sinless persons can accept pure devotional service to the Lord as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.28. येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं ज्ञानानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वा मोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां धृतव्रताः. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
So, Bhajanti Mam Dhruvatah. To stop here. Any questions you have? Read this chapter. I think how many verses are there? Just okay. We'll do this in the
Mataji,
next.
5 more verses, Mataji.
We'll do it now.
Yes, we'll finish it, Mataji.
No problem. 40 seconds now. आद्योऽवतार पुरुषः परस्यः कालस्वभावः सदा सन्मनश्च द्रव्यं विकारो गुण इन्द्रियाणि विराट स्वराट स्थास्तु सरिष्णु भूम्नः. So Karnadaksha Vishnu is the first incarnation. And that is how he is the controller of time, space, cause, mind, effects. All it is being given here. Modes of nature, senses. And also is controlling even the Garbhodaksha Vishnu because it emanates from his body only. The sum total of all living entities, both moving, non-moving. So in this way, Karnadaksha Vishnu is controlling everything. Adi Satviki Mataji read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. Okay. Karnadaksha Vishnu. One second, Mataji. Okay. Shloka 42. Adyahavataraha purusha parasya kalaha sabhavaha sadasanmanasya drabbang vikaro guno indriyani virat swarat sthasnu charisnu bhumnaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Karnadaksha Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the master of eternal time, space, cause, and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord. Garbhodaksha Vishnu, the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. Purport: that the material creation is not permanent has been discussed many times herein before. The material creation is but a temporary exhibition of the material energy of the Almighty God. This material manifestation is necessary to give a chance to the conditioned souls who are unwilling to associate with the Lord in the relationship of loving transcendental service. Such unwilling conditioned souls are not allowed to enter into the liberated life of spiritual existence because at heart they are not willing to serve. Instead, they want to enjoy themselves as imitation gods. The living entities are constitutionally eternal servitors of the Lord, but some of them, because of misusing their independence, do not wish to serve. Therefore, they are allowed to enjoy the material nature, which is called Maya or illusion. This is called illusion because the living beings under the clutches of Maya are not factually enjoyers, although they think that they are being illusioned by Maya. Such illusion living entities are given a chance at intervals to rectify their perverted mentality of becoming false masters of the material nature, and they are imparted lessons from the Vedas about their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Vedescha sarva ahameva Veda. So the temporary creation of the material manifestation is an exhibition of the material energy of the Lord. And to manage the whole show, the Supreme Lord incarnates himself as a Karanadaksha Vishnu, just as a magistrate is deputed by the government to manage affairs temporarily. This Karanadaksha Vishnu causes the manifestation of material creation by looking over his material energy, Sha Oikshata. In the first volume of this book, we have already discussed to some extent the explanation of the verse Yagre Paurusam Rupam. The duration of the illusory play of material creation is called a kalpa. And we have already discussed the creations taking place in kalpa after kalpa. By his incarnation and potential activities, the complete ingredients of creation, namely time, space, cause, result, mind, the gross and subtle elements and their interactional modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then the senses and their reservoir source, the gigantic universal form as the second incarnation, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and all living beings, both moving and standing, which come out of the second incarnation, all became manifested. Ultimately, all these creative elements and the creation itself are but potential manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is independent of the control of the Supreme Being. This first incarnation in the material creation, namely Karanadaksha Vishnu, is the plenary part of the original personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, described in the Brahma Samhita 548 as follows. Yasya Sika Nispasita. One second, Mataji. Jasaipo Nisapita Kaloma Jivanti Loma Bilaja Jagadandanatha Vishnur Mahan Sa Iha Jasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Purusam Aham Bhajami. As the innumerable universes are manifested only during the breathing periods of Mahavishnu or Karanadaksha Vishnu, who is only a plenary part of Govinda, the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Next. 43 to 45. 3 verses are there. Aham bhavo yagya ime prajesha dakshadayo ye bhavadadayascha sarvalokapalaha Thagalokapala Nirlokapala Gandharva Vidyadharcharanisa Yakshara Yakshara Ganaganatha Eva Rushinam Rushabha Pratrunam Eitindra Siddheshcharadanavindraha अन्ये च ये प्रेतपिशाचभूत कुष्माण्डयादो मृगपक्ष्यधीशाः यत्किञ्च लोके ओजः सहस्वबलवत् श्रीर्विभूत्यात्म वदद् गुणा वदद् भूतार्णं तत्त्वं परं रूप वद स्वरूपम्. So I, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Vishnu, then great generators of living beings, Daksha, Prajapati, Narada, Kumara, demigods like Indra, Chandra, leaders of the Bhurloka, leaders of the earthly planets, leaders of the lower planets, leaders of the Gandharva planets, leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, leaders of the Charanaloka planets, leaders of the Yaksha, Raksha, Urgas, great sages, great demons, great hippies, great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, spirit souls, evil spirits, satans, and what? Jinnu, Jinna,
Jin, Jin.
Kushmandas, Jinn,
It's Jin.
Kushmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, great birds, etc. In other words, anything, everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perpetual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth in the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. So we have a verse in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yadyad Vibhuti Matsatvam Shrimadhujitameva Tattadevavagachattam Mamatejansa Sambhavam. Everything is nothing but his potency, a spark of his potency. So it's just a fragment, but there is the verse in Bhagavad Gita also, Yadyad Vibhuti Matsatvam. So whatever we see, this power, opulence, whatever, somebody has a wonderful quality, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, whatever is there, it is just a fragment of the potency of the Lord. So big verse, huh? For okay. Everything has been covered in this. When Naranadir,
Yes, Mataji. Aham bhavo yajna ime prajesha dakshadayo ye bhavadadayascha स्वर स्वर्लोकपाल खगलोकपाला नृलोकपालास्तललोकपालः गन्धर्वविद्याधरचारणेशा ये यक्षरक्षोरगनागनाथः ये वा ऋषीणां वृषभा पितॄणां दैत्येन्द्रसिद्धेश्वरदानवेन्द्रः अन्ये च ये प्रेतपिशाचभूतः कुष्माण्डयादो मृगपक्ष्यधीशाः यत्किञ्च लोके भगवन् महस्व दोजःसहस्वद्बलवत्क्षमावत् श्रीर्विभूत्यात् श्रीर्विभूत्यात्मवदद्भुतार्णं तत्त्वं परं रूपवदस्वरूपम्. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generations of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourself, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Bhurloka planets, the leader of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Urugas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, jinns, Kushmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth and the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Purport. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, all the and other powerful demigods, men, supermen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, satans, evil spirits, jinns, aquatics, birds, and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually, none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena, as the aborigines are fearful of a great thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the sight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord Himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Sauryas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people as Janata Janardhan or Daridra Narayan, etc., in the form of Ganapati, and then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search for the ever existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, etc., without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the original Lord Vishnu. In other ways, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, evil spirits, satans, etc. The general worship of Shanidev, the lord of distressful condition, and Shitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox, is also common to the mass of people. And there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people or the poor class of men. So, different persons, societies, and communities, etc., worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object as God. But in this verse, it is advised by Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Sri Krishna. When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship Him alone, it is to be understood that worshipping Lord Krishna includes worshipping all that is mentioned, because He, Lord Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above, within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represent the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends to the earth or anywhere within the universe, the less intelligent class of men also mistake him to be one of them, and thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does he belong to any of the multi forms experienced within the universal forms. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instruction of Brahmaji. Hare Krishna.
Last verse. Radha. Now you see in this verse, previous verse, how Prabhupada writes so nice, Ishani Dev, Shitla Devi. People go now. Will go to so many devatas, considering them to be all in all. Pradhanyato yanusha amananti Leelavataram Purishasya Bhundaha Apiyatam Karna Kashaya Kashaya Shoshan Anukramishye Iman Supeshan. So Narada, now I'll state one after the transcendental incarnations of the Lord as Leela avatars. Pradhanyataha. Chiefly, now I'll tell about Amananti. We should know whom to worship. We should worship his pastimes, we should worship his incarnations, Purushasya Bhumnaha, the Supreme. Apiyatam. In order to be released by you, I'm going to tell all these things. So hearing of their activities counteract all foul matters accumulated in the ear. Kashaya Shoshana. You know what is Kashaya? When you go on boiling it and make it into small, that is known as Kashaya. This foul matter is also known as Kashaya. Degradation is known as Kashaya. Simple. Kashayam. That means you degrade the whole thing. Degradation is Kashaya. So whatever we hear is actually Kashaya, which accumulates in the ear. These now, how is Lord's pastime? They are very wonderful to hear. And they are actually to be relished. And in this way, Iman Supesha, they are pleasing to hear and they are in my heart. So I'm going to speak this for your pleasure. It will be nice for you to hear. Okay. Aneja Prabhu, last verse, read. Yeah, unmute your phone, Prabhu. Unmute.
Yes, sorry. प्राधानयन्तो यान् रशर्आमनन्ति लीलावतारान् पुरुषस्य भूम्नः आपीयतां करणकषाय शोषान् अनुक्रमिष्येता इमान् सुपेशान्. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Narada, now I shall state, one after another, the transcendental incarnations of the Lord known as Leela Avtaras. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Purport. As it was said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.8, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So, Brahmaji is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as he comes and manifests himself here on the surface of material planets. Every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages, and as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by the radio stations. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all those messages. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. This transcendental literature is especially prepared by Srila Vyasadeva to give the utmost satisfaction to the people in general by narration of the activities of the Lord as instructed by Srila Narad Muni to Srila Vyasadeva. Such activities of the Lord are principally of two varieties. One concerns the mundane manifestation of the material creative force, and the other deals with his pastimes in the form of different incarnation in terms of time and place. There are innumerable incarnations of the Lord, like the waves of the river flowing constantly in and out. Less intelligent persons take more interest in the creative forces of the Lord in the material world, and being disconnected from their relationship with the Lord, they put forward many theories of the creation in the name of scientific research. Some devotees of the Lord, however, know well how the creative forces work concurrently by the action and reaction of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore, they take more interest in the transcendental activities of the Lord as he incarnates himself on the surface of the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam is the history of such activities of the Lord, and people who take interest in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam clear their hearts of accumulated mundane filth. There are 1,001 rash literatures on the market, but one who has taken interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. The Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar. Hare Krishna. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purpose of the second canto, sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Now, did you all do any exams? 1 to 3 chapters? Any exam was there? Hmm?
No,
Any exam?
Mataji, no examinations.
Directly after 6th chapter, no exam will be there. Next month. Okay. Next month, second week. Is it okay with all of you?
No, Mataji, I have international conference.
When March first week,
March first week, Mataji, after Gaur Purnima.
is okay. When is the Gaur Purnima? 3rd or 4th?
It's first or second of March.
When is Saturday,
Wait,
Sunday coming?
Mataji, Gaur Purnima.
I think 7th and 8th is Saturday, Sunday, I think. Just check.
Mataji, Gaur Purnima is 3rd of March, Tuesday.
When is Saturday, Sunday?
7th and 8th.
Let's put in the group 7th and 8th. 7th will be orals and 8th will be written exam. Okay, 1 to 6 chapters. Now prepare. Another 4 chapters ends your second can. The 10 chapters are here. All other chapters are small now. Okay then? Okay, prepare. Panchakal